Hello, everyone. Welcome to Notre Dame Football Recruiting News live with Mike Singer, 5 o'clock here in the late afternoon. I'm Greg Ladke. We are part of the blueandgold.com team. Mike, we're expecting big news over these couple of weeks with the visit weekends versus USC and North Carolina. And Notre Dame got a huge commitment last night from in-state prospect Drayk Bowen. Your thoughts?
Well, you said that when you said that right there, the first thing that came to mind was just like the old Aaron Rodgers thing of relax. Like, remember when everyone was freaking out and Aaron Rodgers said, just relax, Packers are going to be okay. Like, after the USC weekend, I think Notre Dame fans thought there was going to be like 86 new commitments to happen. It's just like, hey, just take a second, like, calm down. It's good news will happen.
Yeah.
And Drayk Bowen announced his commitment to Notre Dame today. Like, a lot of kids these days, they make their decision and then they announce it like 2 or 3 weeks later. So Drayk Bowen, announced his commitment. What was that? November 3rd. Something that had kind of been brewing there, silently for a couple weeks. So huge commitment for Notre Dame, obviously, Greg. I mean, he there's just so many ways you can look at this as a big commitment for the Fighting Irish. Obviously, as a talent, he's a borderline 5-star player on Rivals. He's got the great offer list. Top 3 of Auburn, Clemson, and Notre Dame is obviously a great group of schools. Great athlete overall. I mean, he can play running back. Probably not at Notre Dame's level, but heck, in a pinch, maybe.
Yeah.
He could play any of the 3 linebacker positions. I mean, he's a baseball player. I mean, you talk about him potentially being a shortstop at Notre Dame, and that's kind of like, I'm not a big baseball guy, but I believe that's kind of like your quarterback of the infield, right? I mean, that's kind of your best athlete plays a shortstop position. So just overall, fantastic football player. And then perception wise, I mean, he's going to recruit for Notre Dame. Believe he'll be the face of the class. He in-state kid, just a big deal. Notre Dame landing Drayk Bowen.
Please hit like on this video. It helps us out a lot in our channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. If you're a recruiting fan, you definitely want to make this part of your regular YouTube viewing routine. Mike, amongst all of your busyness covering Notre Dame recruiting, particularly in the last 2 weeks, you found a way to make a trip over to Birmingham this week as well to see 2023 quarterback offer Chris Vizina. What were your takeaways from that visit?
Yeah, I don't know how I found time for that. It was a 3-hour drive there, 3 hours back, but it was a really good visit. Chris Vizina, Notre Dame offered him I believe it was Wednesday, and so I was like, yeah, I got to go see this kid. And I heard that he camped really well at Notre Dame in June, and staff liked him a lot. Wanted to see him more in person, see him more, during his season. And he's been excellent this season. And here's some practice footage that I shot from him just a couple days ago. And yeah, really good quarterback. I mean, he's almost 6'4". So I would say he's about 6'3.5" right now. He's just a junior in high school, right around 200 pounds. Pretty tight delivery, quick release. I like his footwork. I think he moves pretty well right now. Didn't really see him moving a ton out of the pocket during this practice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there was nothing that like screamed like this kid is the best quarterback I've ever seen, or this kid stinks. Like it was a high school practice, pretty light, but overall, pretty impressed with him. And as far as his interest in Notre Dame, I think it's pretty high as well. This was a big deal to him. I mean, he's a Catholic kid. He goes to a faith-based school. Just a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I appreciate you going. And nice job with the camera work, by the way, Mr. Singer. I mean,
You know what?
you don't have the type of camcorder that I have, which is far more powerful than you. And I thought you did a pretty good job here, man.
Greg, I
You don't
appreciate
worry.
that. I've been just doing phone, like just filming stuff with my iPhone for years, and ever since we landed you at Blue and Gold, a professional videographer, I was like, man, I got to step up my game. So I pulled out the old camcorder. I'd never shot a quarterback before with this camcorder, so this was the first time I'd
Yeah.
ever done this. So that means a lot. I did not know that this was going to turn out all right, so I'm glad it did.
It's the hardest position to shoot, and I'm not a well. I'm a sports news gatherer, what I would call out of the TV news business. I'm not a maybe not a professional
Well,
videographer. Depends
damn
on
it,
the
I said it.
category.
I said it. So
I
now
know
you are.
I know how to shoot a prospect camp. Anyway, please participate in our comment channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you do that, you could drop us a comment. You could drop us a question or even a super chat. We're more than willing to take those on as well. Mike, I want to get to some questions first from our premium subscribers at blueandgold.com. Crash 9010 asks something I think we all have been seeing a little bit on social media. He says, anything going on with Samuel Mpemba? He seems to always be cheering on ND commits. And I think he means via Twitter and such.
Yeah. Yeah, been reporting on this at blueandgold.com, the gold standard. So, Crash, I would definitely recommend reading that in written form. I report on that on Monday. You can find that at blueandgold.com. But yeah, he tweeted out commitment coming soon, and soon is a relative term.
Yeah.
Like I believe we talked about this in our video on Monday. Like I'm gonna hire someone to work on my deck soon. But that's been for the past year. So
Yeah.
maybe something around New Year. I don't know. It doesn't seem like anything is super, right now. Imminent is the word I was looking for Samuel and Pemba. Saw him last week, and really good athlete. He's a good football player. Notre Dame's recruiting him either at the Viper or rover position. He was playing tight end, snagged a nice pass there for a gain for IMG in the rain. But yeah, nothing really to write home about right now. But in terms of like an imminent commitment, but yeah, I like Notre Dame in this recruitment right now. The other schools I hear for Mpemba are Alabama and Oklahoma, interestingly enough. So still think he's going to want to take some more visits. He's only visited a couple schools at this point. Over the summer, he was in Africa the entire time. So a lot of the prospects were out on the road visiting schools, and Pemba wasn't even in the country. So I think he's going to want to take some more visits.
Jerboski asks, update on Billy. I think he means Billy Schroth. And is it a close recruitment?
Did he really ask if it's a close recruitment? Come on, Drayk, I know you, man. You post on the board all the time. I know you know that this is a close recruitment. Come on, it's Billy Schroth. It's been, for a long time, it felt like it wasn't a close recruitment. It was just Notre Dame was gonna run away with this thing, and then you get into the summer, and it seemed to shift towards Wisconsin, and then it just seemed to shift back towards Notre Dame. And I think a lot of that is like my fault. Like guys like me in the media who are hearing really good things, and you know, but we always kind of say like, but we don't know. Like we don't know for sure. We can tell you what we're hearing,
Yeah.
but like Schroth, you follow the visits and you see what a kid like actually does. Like actions speak louder than words. And Schroth hasn't made any decisions yet. Like we here we still are. I mean, I'm obviously checking in on sources with Schroth all of the time. I mean, just put up a dartboard, throw a dart at it, and that's probably what you're going to hear that day. Like it could be anything. Wisconsin, you might hear Wisconsin this day, or decision coming next week, or decision on signing. Like you just hear really anything, um, and that's that's nothing bad about Billy. Like Billy's a fantastic kid. He's just trying to make his decision, and you got guys trying to report on what he's going to do, and there just doesn't seem to be much of a clear knowledge of what he is going to do on the media side of things. So Greg, don't know yet. That's kind of the we'll just have to wait and see. I still like Notre Dame, slightly
Yeah.
like Notre Dame right now over Wisconsin. But we'll just have to see.
And we have mentioned before how hard it is to get elite offensive lineman out of the state of Wisconsin. So that would be a big pull for Notre Dame. Michael, first off, you're welcome. We love doing these live recruiting videos. He says, do either of you expect the Bowen commitment last night to create a possible domino effect? Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in turn, like domino effect, as far as like some kids going to say, well, Drayk Bowen committed, I want to go there. I mean, I think, well, no, by the way, I don't think that, but I said at the top of the show, like Bowen is going to recruit other players.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we get off the show, I'm gonna finish my visitor preview article for this weekend, and one portion is obviously about Sonny Stiles, who is the 5-star athlete slash Rovers visiting Notre Dame this weekend. I have a quote from Sonny after his Cincinnati visit where he hung out with Drake a good bit, where he said, like, he's an awesome guy. Like, I really like Drayk Bowen and would like to play with him at the next level. Drayk
Yep.
Bowen told me in an interview that I posted right when he committed that Drake said, "Hey, I'm going to be recruiting for Notre Dame." So you kind of put those two things together. And it's like, all right, Sonny likes Drake. Drake's going to recruit Sonny. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more fireworks to come out of defensive recruiting for Notre Dame. I think in the next 2 to 3 months, there's definitely going to be more commitments for the Fighting Irish on the defensive side of the ball. You look at potentially in the defensive backfield, there's some guys to keep an eye on. Notre Dame's done a really good job early on in the DB class. I mean, so many names come to mind right away. Justin Rett, Malik Muhammad, Christian Gray, Micah Tease. These are all big time defensive backs who Notre Dame has done a really good job with. And that's just off the top of my head. Amari Snowden from Michigan will be on campus this weekend. Some good players.
John D. Crisio had, and excuse me if I butchered your last name, John, but follow up on that said, saw an interview with Drayk Bowen. He said that he wanted to go to Alabama, but they did not offer a scholarship. What do you think happens if they do later? And why do you think, Mike, they did not offer?
I can't tell you what would happen in the future. Like if they do offer, I honestly don't know what how he will react to it. I'm sure he'll be excited. But I think this kid is all Notre Dame. And yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have great answers for you, John. But I can't tell you like what Nick Saban was thinking and not offering Drayk Bowen. I do believe he camped there over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on that, but that was their decision. I can't, speak for the Alabama staff, but I mean, tons of schools in the SEC and ACC saw enough in him to offer. I mean, Clemson is, his. I don't know they're down right now, but that is, one of the best college football programs in the country right now. Obviously, they offered. So if anyone's thinking, well, Alabama didn't offer him, so I'm not excited about it. I mean, you got to get your priorities checked. I mean, there's a lot of good football players who Alabama doesn't offer. So that's kind of my thoughts there.
Indeed. Oscar asks, guys, what are you hearing in regards to a fourth wide receiver commitment?
I mean, let's. I think before you kind of focus in on a potential fourth receiver commitment, you got to worry about holding on to the three. I mean, Tobias Merriweather's rock solid. CJ Williams, I believe, is also rock solid. CJ hasn't been to a game yet to Notre Dame. It's tough to get out from Southern California to South Bend.
Mm,
During the football season, especially
yeah.
for a school like Mater Dei, who's in such big games all the time. But Amarion Walker obviously is been a guy who it's up in the air, what he's going to end up doing. I still like Notre Dame to hold on to Amarion Walker from Ponchatoula, Louisiana. But yeah, in terms of a fourth, Notre Dame offered Wesley Grimes from the Raleigh area, North Carolina. That's the one to really keep an eye on right now.
Mhm.
I know some folks have asked about Major Everhart, who Notre Dame hosted for an official in September, but he committed to TCU. Of course, the Horned Frogs are without a head coach right now. I don't expect Notre Dame to really get back into the Major Everhart recruitment. Um, that's just my opinion, kind of reading between the lines. But
Yeah.
I think the bigger priority is holding on to the three. And then a fourth is certainly a potential, but Notre Dame's got some other priorities in this class as well.
Let me ask you, because your boy Jaboski also, he asked a few questions for us, but he did ask about Jalen Brown in the 2023 class. What are your thoughts early on him and where Notre Dame stands?
Yeah, Jaboski, same thing, man. Like you know when I'm reporting on him. Yeah, I reported on him at blueandgold.com on our premium message board earlier this week. Yeah, so nothing new since then, but I think Notre Dame's on a short list. Top schools should be coming soon from Brown. The Fighting Irish will absolutely be on that. And then seems to be like he seems to want to make it early-ish commitment. Like whether that's in a couple of weeks from now or 2 or 3 months from now, I don't know. But I would be surprised if Jalen Brown, stretches his recruitment out into next spring or summer. I think it could be sometime this winter. So keep an eye on Jalen Brown. Notre Dame and Michigan are a couple of schools highly in the mix. Know some SEC schools are after him too, Florida and some of those programs. So yeah, Notre Dame's certainly a factor in this one.
Yeah, this is actually video I shot. If you guys are looking for example of what
Professional,
of not,
professional.
I wouldn't go that far. But let me ask just he asked. We have other questions as well, but just to um, another question from our premium users. I thought Sean Bush asked an interesting question, and I'm not sure if you're ready for this, Mike, but he asked, based on the board, you'd think there's no hope for X to ND. Is that really the case? Now, I think he means like, is there a surprise out there that
No,
we're
no, no.
missing?
Xavier Wonkpa, I want to say.
Oh, for X, okay. Wow, that's
Yeah.
quite the short nickname then. There's
Well, yeah, he goes by X. That's what I call him.
yeah,
So I'm gonna assume that's what you said. It was Sean. Sean, I believe it was.
yeah, Sean Bush.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's what I would assume. Yeah, because the reports on
Oh yeah,
Wampa seem to be Iowa. Um, so is there hope? Yeah, heck yeah,
yeah,
there's hope. First of all, this is recruiting we're talking about. The kid hasn't signed anywhere. There's always hope.
yeah.
Um, I am a glass half full kind of guy. I know this is like 3/4 empty, but I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Mike Goolsby on our show earlier this week called me an eternal optimist. I don't think he meant that as a compliment. I will take it as one though. And yeah, there's absolutely hope for Wonk, but I mean, I believe it's going to be Notre Dame or Iowa. I think personally he's leaning Iowa, but heck yeah, Notre Dame still got a shot. I think he's done taking visits at this point. He's kind of focused on that state title run. So if it really comes down to this for him. Does he want to stay in state? Like, how important is that to him? If that's a deal breaker for Notre Dame that they are not in Iowa, then he's going to go to Iowa. But if he's like, you know what, like I'm cool with leaving and I want to go experience something else, then I think it'll be Notre Dame. So that's what it's going to come down to. What he ends up doing. Obviously, I don't know right now, but I feel comfortable in saying that Iowa's perceived as the team to beat right now, but Notre Dame's got a shot.
Yeah, we talked last week about how crazy it is that high school in Iowa's got both Xavier Nwampa and Caden Proctor at the same
Two
school.
five
It's just
stars.
two five
Yeah.
stars. It's pretty nuts. Question from Hopkins 2011: has the staff remained in contact with Drew Alar? And that probably just speaks to this whole quarterback board dynamic going on with Notre Dame recruiting.
Um, I, maybe a little bit. I don't think it's anything serious. I mean, we talk a good bit. Oh, look at this. This is video I
It's
saw
you
of
again.
Alar. Look at that. Yeah, this was the Drew Alar Brendan Vernon game from October, and yeah, Alar was pretty darn good in that game.
Oh, wasn't it?
Um, yeah, that's a heck of a throw right there. Yeah, I maybe a little bit. I mean, I've kind of checked in on this. If they have, it's nothing really to write home about. He is solid with Penn State. I mean, Ohio State is the in-state, big program there, and they've offered him. They're in pursuit of him pretty heavy. The last I checked, and I don't even think they've, been able to make a big dent in the recruitment. I think it's going to come down to this for Notre Dame and potentially getting Alar. Does James Franklin leave? If James Franklin leaves, then we can talk about this. Otherwise, there's really nothing to discuss right now other than, he's a pretty impressive quarterback.
Interesting. We have a couple questions about Carnell Tate. So we're going to load one from Anthony Phelan here. And we also had a question from Jerboski about and I'll ask Jerboski's question. He says, after Tate and Stiles visit to Ohio State, who do you think leads in their recruitment? And do you think we win both or at least one?
Man, I love these live shows because you guys give me the toughest questions, and I feel like 98% of my answers are just like, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
And guess what? Like, I don't know. Do you guys want me to make stuff up? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna do my best to answer these, but like these are very tough questions. Like, like a lot of these questions, it's not because like Mike Singer's not an informed guy. It's because like I mean, you can sit down with Brian Kelly and Freeman and Reese, like, they're not gonna know these answers
Yeah.
right now, um, as well. So, as far as Tate and Stiles, it is extremely tight between Notre Dame and Ohio State for both of those guys.
Mm.
Stiles visits this weekend. Tate's been at Notre Dame 5 times. Stiles, this will be his 3rd visit since June, and I would imagine he has been to Notre Dame many times, with Lorenzo's visits dating back, his older brother, of course, dating back to like 2018, 2019. So, um, the follow the visits thing looks great, for both of these players. Tate just seems to have a really strong affinity for the Buckeyes and a really great relationship with Brian Hartline. Stiles, of course, his dad played at Ohio State's Columbus kid. It's just a really tight recruitment for both. I have a future cast pick in for Carnell Tate. If I could do that over again, I would just wipe it. I don't really feel good about it right now. I I don't know. I don't know where I stand on either of them right now. I'm probably leaning Ohio State for Tate. Um, but with Styles, it's a coin flip for me right now. I don't really have a strong read on Styles and where he's going to end up. It really is close between those 2 schools, and then Florida, Ole Miss, and Clemson, I believe, are the other 3 of his top 5 schools. It's they're making it difficult too, and they're pushing for him.
Time for your weekly difficult question to answer about Walker Howard.
I don't know, Harvey. Maybe.
And we're not making fun of
um,
Harvey. It's just Walker Howard for a quarterback. I mean, he just keeps things pretty close. I mean, it's not easy on a guy like you trying to speculate where he's going to end up.
Well, I mean, I can tell you what's going on right now. He's visiting Ole Miss this weekend. I do not know if it's an official or an unofficial. Not that that's a huge difference maker, just kind of an interesting data point for a recruiting nerd like me. But yeah, Ole Miss. So that's a question we get a lot, Greg, is who else is in the mix for Walker Howard? Well, right now I can tell you Ole Miss is in there. Yeah, I get all sorts of, I mean, just last Friday, I was talking to a source who told me that he was like, yeah, he's sticking with LSU. There's no doubt about it. And then when I was driving to Birmingham, I was on the phone with a source who told me, "Oh, I think he's flipping. I just don't know where, but I think he's flipping." I'm like, "All right, great." Like, there's a little insight into my job. Like, I get to help, like, by people I trust in this, industry. You know, eh, tell me 2 opposite things. I'm like, "All right, great. Now, how am I supposed to get on a live show and answer this question?" Um, and it, when we talked about Alar, the question was, does Franklin take another job? Well, it's sort of similar with Howard. It's who does take the LSU job.
Right.
If it's someone asked me on our board this week, what about Mel Tucker? That's a defensive coach who has hopped around so much. I mean, he left Colorado after a year, leave Michigan State after a couple years, and then go, like, how does Walker Howard feel about that hire? Like, I think the Irish might have a shot on that one. But if it's like a James Franklin or like a Joe Brady or some big offensive name like that, it'll be tough. But we just have to see who LSU hires. I don't think we're gonna have a clear answer on Walker Howard until National Signing Day.
All right, another question from our subscriber community. ET1512 asks, do you think ND wants an H-back tight end hybrid player as part of their offensive class, or are they recruiting Carson Tabarachi, right, out of Utah because they just like him as an athlete?
Yes. I think the answer is yes. Like, so they're not like in search of like this specific H-back, role that Tabarachi is. Like, that's not a big need for them, quote unquote. But Tabarachi is very good at that, and they do like him as an athlete, and they would like him there. So my answer to your question is more so the latter. Like, they just really like him as an athlete. But yeah, they would like that kind of move tight end, or he's a linebacker. Like, there's just a lot you can do with Carson Tabarachi. took an official at for the USC game. Had a story up at blueandgold.com about that, which you can find. Really good football player. Don't have the sense that he is going to make a decision here in the next couple of weeks. I reported in the article Ohio State and Oregon are a couple more official visit destinations that are possible for November. He also took officials to Utah. And how about this? USC. He visited USC just this past weekend, even though they don't have a coach. So maybe they get a new coach and try to get Tarbarachi. So interesting player. Not sure if he ends up in the class. My gut right now says he stays at in state at Utah, but not sure just yet. Like, how hard is Ohio State pushing? How badly do they want him in their class? Like, that's another kind of question I have right now. But we'll see on Carson Tavarachi. But certainly liked his Notre Dame visit.
Make sure you guys are hitting like on this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you can partake in the comments to the side. Ask us a question, drop us a super chat. And of course, visit blueandgold.com. Mike Singer has so much more scoop than he's even sharing here. Look out for notes about our newsletter, too, a really cool item we have.
Yeah.
Sign up for that as well. You usually find it in any of our content items. And just next time you see a note about the newsletter or an image,
Top
go.
of blueandgold.com too, Greg. Right there
Yes,
at the top.
there you go. So visit blueandgold.com and you can get everything Mike Singer knows about Notre Dame football recruiting. So let's ask some more questions. How about it?
Or doesn't know. What I know or what I don't know, I
Well,
guess.
hey, I think you know a lot more than you don't. But hey, there are, like you mentioned earlier, sometimes there's questions where there's just not answers to, but you got to find a way to answer
Okay,
it.
so Harvey's question, I'm going to take your role of asking the question. So he said, or reading the question, how are the chances of Dante
Sure.
Moore after his OSU visit? A few years ago, around signing day, I would do this article called "Forecasting the big recruits left," and I would actually put percentages on, like whatever school I was covering. Like, here's I used to cover Colorado. Here's Colorado's chances with X recruit. There X, so that reference does still exist. Um, and I was always like, it was like tough. Like, I should just put 50-50 for all of them because then I'll
Yeah,
be right for all of them. Like,
right.
so I don't really do chances. But what was the question about Dante Moore?
Yeah, after post OSU visit.
Yeah, post OSU visit. Um, I can't tell you. I think it's Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State. Dante Moore is not anywhere near a decision based on everything I've heard. Notre Dame absolutely loves Dante Moore. They want him very badly in the class. But Harvey, I mean, I couldn't tell you where he's going right now. Notre Dame has other quarterbacks on the board that they are going after.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in addition to a Dante Moore, or if Dante Moore passes on them. But Notre Dame's certainly in his top group. I can't tell you chances right now. How about 50-50?
I want to get to Chi-Town Sports. I actually missed a question from him earlier about a couple offensive linemen. We'll try to get to that as well, Chi-Town. But he asked, what's going on with A.J. Harris, and will he get to the Georgia Tech game?
I don't have any updates on whether whether or not he's going to visit for the Georgia Tech game. That's what I reported was a strong possibility at blueandgold.com. Not sure if that visit's been completely locked in yet. Right now, I'm working under the assumption that he will take it. Yeah, AJ Harris, big Notre Dame target in the 23 class out of Phoenix City, Alabama, Glenwood.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame is a huge contender. I mean, it's the who's who of college football's after him. Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State. Everyone's after AJ Harris. Um, he's kind of a kid who doesn't love the recruiting process and kind of all of the attention and hype and drama and everything that comes with it. I could see him popping pretty early. And when I talked about earlier the great defensive back prospects who's Notre Dame's in really good position for, Harris definitely one of them,
Mm-hmm.
and a top target. I mean, I think Notre Dame's got a good shot for him, but I bet all those schools in the South feel like they're in good position too.
Anthony Phelan asks, how much is Kelly involved in communicating with recruits? I know Ryan Daly talks to his guys a lot.
Brian Kelly does a great job on the recruiting
Mm-hmm.
trail. When he recruits, that's been my feeling for the past couple years. Like, when he does recruit, he is the best of them. He's definitely gotten more involved than he had been in like my first recruiting cycle and for 2020.
Mhm.
That class definitely has amped it up. Kelly said in press conferences that the coaches will bring him like a list of recruits, and Kelly just text calls like just a bunch of those kids. So I don't have like a number or any specific data for you, Anthony, off the top of my head, but he probably doesn't recruit quite like Ryan Day does, like
Yeah.
on that daily, phone call, super involved
And
like
you
a
got
Ryan Day.
and Ryan Day followed up Urban Meyer, who was crazy involved in recruiting, crazy active. Ohio State couldn't go the other way with their next head coach. So
Sure, sure,
didn't
yeah,
cut
but
you off, but
no. I need another sip of water, but yeah, no. So yeah, how much is Kelly involved in communicating with recruits? It's a daily thing. He does it all the time.
Mhm.
But if you're going to compare him to Ryan Day, I don't think it's at the same level.
Michael has another question. He asked, where does Notre Dame currently stand with Caleb Downs? He's been to Notre Dame 2 times. Follow the visits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, visited Notre Dame in June, and then just this past weekend for the North Carolina game.
Mm.
I don't remember if I wrote up my interview from Caleb Downs at Blue and Gold. It's been quite the week. I really don't remember, but I did talk to Downs, and if I haven't posted that yet, I will at some point soon. But yeah, I think they're right up there with any school. I think North Carolina, his brother's a receiver there. They're very much in the mix. Ohio State. I mean, he's got pretty much everybody after him too. Alabama's offered him, Georgia, Clemson. I mean, pretty much all those schools after AJ Harris are after Caleb Downs as well.
Yep.
I think that Notre Dame is a huge dark horse in Caleb Downs recruitments. Watch out for him. When you talk about safeties, he's not the number one guy that comes to mind in terms of likely to land at Notre Dame, but like I think dark horse is the right word.
Brandon comes through with our first super chat. Thank you, Brandon. Always a dedicated and loyal viewer of our recruiting updates. He asked, Mike, any updates on Deuce Robinson or Jackson Howard? Any visits in the works? How about O linemen? Any other news or visits scheduled for 23, guys? Now, you get to ask 4 questions if you drop a super chat. So I'm not
I wish I
offended.
had tequila in here. I wish this was tequila, not
Yeah,
water.
I'm drinking.
Um,
Well,
uh,
isn't it 5 o'clock?
all right, somewhere. No, I mean we started this at 5, so
Yeah.
okay. Deuce Robinson, I'm going to Phoenix next week. So I should be meeting with Deuce Robinson. I've checked in on that one. I think it's a long shot for Notre Dame. He had a really good visit over the summer. Personally, I don't see it happening for Notre Dame. He's also a really good baseball player. I wouldn't be surprised, if he goes that route for his athletic career because he's also a darn good player in the diamond. Jackson Howard, you know what, Brandon? I will check in on that one once we're done recording. I don't. I mean, he's been pretty quiet. This is both of these Robinson and Howard, a couple of top Notre Dame tight end targets. Haven't heard anything on Howard recently.
Mhm.
I don't think he's been visiting any schools. Like it's been pretty quiet. Visits in the works, news, the next 15 commitments. Let me tell you all about those right now, Brandon. I'm just kidding. AJ Harris is definitely a visit in the work. I mean, you can follow up Brandon with like a specific, any guys. I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, any visits in the work. I mean, yeah, that's what they're doing. The coaching staff's working on all the time. Uh,
Yeah, it's
I
just the
mean,
AJ
Devin,
Harris one to Georgia Tech, obviously, is the
yeah,
one that comes to mind most.
yeah, that's a possibility. Does Notre Dame bring in Devin Brown, the USC quarterback commit in 22 from Utah? I believe he's actually from Arizona, but do they bring him in?
Mhm.
That's possible. Um, I mean, do they bring in Wesley Grimes? That's something that's in the works. The 22 receiver from Raleigh in North Carolina. Um, I wouldn't rule out additional 2022 offensive line offers at some point. Yeah, I mean, they're October was the big month in recruiting. November little won't be as big in terms of the names who come in, but if Notre Dame's going to go after and like some of these late names in the 2022 cycle, they're going to bring them on campus in November for a game, hopefully.
Jared Evan asks, Mike, will this Notre Dame 2023 class be the best recruiting class at ND of all time?
I think you need a couple more question marks there, Jared.
Well,
um,
he's just illustrating that it's a long way away. National Signing Day for 2023.
yeah, I think that the defensive class offense too, but I mean that defensive class just what they can do there. I mean, they might sign 4 stars across the board on defense, and it's crazy to what is it going to look like in 14 months when they actually do sign? But I mean, there could be 4-star, top 100, top 200 players just like across the board. I mean, the guys they have now committed, Brennan Vernon, Keon Keeley on the defensive line are damn good. Drayk Bowen, we talked about, is elite. Adon Schuler is someone who's just going to rise up the rankings. At least I hope, because he's been so good this season. He had a 3-interception game a couple weeks ago. Seems like he's having an interception return for a touchdown every week. And that's just the committed guys. I mean, if they get Sonny Stiles, Sam and Pemba, Malik Muhammad, Justin Rhett, those are all top 50 players. And
Yeah.
Notre Dame's in like the 1 or 2 position for all of those guys. Offensive side of the ball, Dante Moore is a top 40 player. They already got a top 100 running back in Cedric Irvin. Can they get Carnell Tate? Can they get Jalen Brown, top 50 receivers? Offensive line, they don't have a commitment from yet. But in the mix for Caden Proctor, the number 1 offensive tackle in the class from Iowa. I mean, in the mix for a lot of impressive 2023 players. So the opportunity is there, but as the cycle goes on, the board shrinks, they'll miss on guys. They just gotta win some of the battles. I mean, I think the potential is there, but I mean, every year you're like, if you're a Notre Dame fan, and you follow recruiting, you probably have the sense of, man, it's that next class looks really good. It's going to be the next class. So that's kind of my worry, that like, I don't want too much hype to be built up. And then Notre Dame fans are like, well, I mean, this one's supposed to be the best class. And then you're kind of let down. But it does look good early on, Jared.
Yeah, so Notre Dame finished second in the class of 2008. That's Notre Dame's highest finish in the Rivals era, which started with the class of 2002. Brian Kelly's best class is third in 2013, the one that included Jalen Smith. The 2003 class, or 2023, excuse me, it's early, but they're ranked number 2. It's not unique to Notre Dame recruiting classes where their first 6 guys are 4-stars. The big difference is the high 4-stars like Drayk Bowen and Brennan Vernon, who are right there in striking distance of being 5-stars, and kind of this feeling that Keon Keeley's a 5.9. I think he's a candidate really to move up as well. So, I mean, I would argue probably their best start, but it isn't overwhelmingly their best start. If you look back at past classes, they've had some instances where their first 6 commits at least ended up being 4-star prospects. Should we dig up another question?
Got a super chat.
We have a super chat just on time. I needed that too because I was just surfing on our site and looking at some data and got a little lost there. All right. How about this? Panic Mob. He asked, can Chase Claypool help recruit 5-star safety Xavier Wampa, who were when they were hanging out together at USC, the USC versus Notre Dame game? So can he be involved in that recruitment?
Yeah. I don't think there's anything stopping him. I mean, I don't know if that's something that Chase is going to do. Maybe he can throw out some tweets here and there. I don't foresee an NFL player with that schedule, actively involved in the recruiting process. But yeah, I mean that's cool. Like Wampa picked the perfect game to go to, like the Notre Dame USC game. Like staff worked really hard to get him on campus for that one. Neat moment, those 2 guys, hanging out, getting a picture together with family. Can he? I don't think there's anything in the rules that would stop it. But I don't know if Chase Claypool is going to be, sliding into Wonka's DMs and talking to him all the time.
I'm regretting not loading video on X or Xavier because we've had several questions on him, and just there's only so many guys I can load up, and
yeah,
one of them. Chi-Town Sports. Mike, do you think Notre Dame eventually offers Trevor Lauk and Dylan Senda, two offensive linemen, correct?
Yes. I mean, both of those guys I would put in future cast picks if
Mhm.
the Irish offer. Um, yeah, Notre Dame's just waiting and seeing and continue to evaluate both guys. I think one of them. I could see Notre Dame offering one of them, maybe both. Senda, probably interior guy. I want to say both of them camped at Notre Dame in June, so saw him in June, get him on campus in the fall, continue to evaluate junior tape. Um, I could see Notre Dame offering them probably at least one of them. And yeah, Notre Dame. I think Trevor Laux had a grandfather play at Notre Dame, so there's a super strong family connection there. And Senda is just a very strong quote unquote Notre Dame type kid. And Greg, if you at the one of the recent chats, Brendan Plessner following up on a super chat
Yep.
asked about a few of the offensive linemen. I feel like you're yelling at me, Brandon. Um, so Harris Sewell, Chase Basantis, Samuel Okunlola, Caden Green. Yeah, I've checked in on all these guys. I haven't heard any visits being set up for them. We also had a comment. I think it was the very first comment. Josh Padilla committed to Ohio State right at the top of our show. Notre Dame had him for the USC game.
Mhm,
He's one of the kids from Huber Heights, Wayno High School.
mhm.
Yeah, there's the comment from Brad,
And we should
also
have
on our
said,
message board.
by the way, thank you to Panic Mob. I
Yes,
just didn't say thank you for the super chat. That's awesome.
yes.
How about a light one from? I always appreciate the food questions. Mike, do you enjoy searching out places to eat when you go on the road? I'm much more boring about this, but he asked, "What's your favorite barbecue out of Bees, Cracklin, Ziegler's, or Wallace Barbecue?" Are you familiar with those places?
I was gonna say, am I supposed to know? I
Uh,
don't know.
I don't.
Are those? Sorry, Kyle, you have to follow up. Like, are those are Atlanta places, or is that a South? Are these South Bend? I don't know. Yeah, when I travel on the road, Greg, I mean, it's like I will look and see if there's something, unique to the place. Like I'll try a little bit, but we're getting in so early, and then I want to just take a nap, and then it's like I'm hungry, and it's 11 o'clock. Well, most of those places aren't open, so it's McDonald's. And I love Taco
Yeah.
Bell, so
I
yeah.
look for if there's a local microbrewery, but I'm not good about looking for restaurants. There's others on during the Rivals Camp Series. Some of the guys on the team, like they'll put a lot of time into it and pick awesome places to go to, and I'm like, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings.
If I go to Ohio, it's a guarantee I'm going to Skyline Chili. And if you don't like Skyline Chili, hit that unsubscribe button and get out of here. All right, I'm kidding, but seriously, I love Skyline Chili. That's my jam. I will spend $20 on a Skyline Chili meal. I don't know if my wife's around. I don't want her to hear that, but I will spend like $20 on Skyline Chili
How
and
do you
and
do
not be.
that? Isn't it pretty cheap?
I mean, I can eat a lot of Skyline Chili. Get a 5-way plate. I'll get 2 cheese coney dogs. I'll get a chilito, which is a chili burrito. Oh, dude, I had it in September. That was my that was my order
And
when I went to
and
go
you
see
get back
Sunnyside.
into a car and drive somewhere without a bathroom in the car, right?
That's correct,
That's
dude. I'm getting Taco Bell after this show. Like, I'm on my diet. Like, my stomach can handle anything.
all right.
So
Well, we'll get back on topic here just for a little bit more as we wrap this up. I want to put this in there because I'm not sure. I mean, do you think Billy Schroth will set a commitment date, or do you think he'll just kind of quietly do his thing?
I could see both. I mean, yeah, he's not a big social media guy. I mean, he's announced top schools in the past. I mean, he put out like a top 4 probably this time last year, and it's like, all right, Billy Schroff's about to commit. Here we are now, a year later. So the answer to Terry's question, he has not set a date for when he will announce. I feel really good that there's finally a question I can just be like yes or no to. But no, he has not set a date. Greg, to answer your question, I could see either. It wouldn't surprise me if I look at my phone, it's like, oh, Billy Schroff committed to somewhere, or if he's gonna tweet out, "Hey, I'm announcing on signing day." I could see either.
Jay Wiki Jr., I laughed. All right, Mike, I think that should do it. That was a great chat. Everyone, please hit like on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, as we talked about earlier, seek out our newsletter on blueandgold.com. It's on our front page. It's within our content items as well. That's one of the ways we communicate with all of our users and subscribers. Easy to do. It's free. And well, until next week, Mike, we'll do this again on Thursday. Hopefully there's more fun news to discuss. If not, we'll still find news to discuss.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll take questions, of course. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.